Chapter 1. A Boy with a Big Dream. George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia. He wasn't born into extreme wealth or political power. His family had land, but they were far from aristocrats. His father died when George was only 11, forcing him to grow up quickly. As a boy, he developed a love for the outdoors, adventure, and most importantly, honor. George didn't have the same education as many other leaders of his time. He didn't attend college in England, as was common for wealthy young men. Instead, he learned practical skills, surveying land, riding horses, and leading people. This lack of formal schooling would become one of his greatest motivations to prove himself through action, not just words. From a young age, Washington lived by one rule: deeds, not words. Chapter 2. Lessons from the Wilderness. In his late teens, Washington became a land surveyor, exploring the rugged wilderness of Virginia. This work taught him patience, resilience, and how to endure discomfort. Sleeping under the stars, facing unpredictable weather, and interacting with Native American tribes shaped his survival skills and his respect for others. By the age of 21, he was appointed as a major in the Virginia militia. But soon, he would face the first great test of his life, the French and Indian War. Chapter 3. The First Taste of Battle. In 1754, tensions between Britain and France over North American territory erupted into conflict. Washington was sent to deliver a message to the French, asking them to leave the Ohio Valley. The French refused. Soon after, he led a small force in a skirmish at Fort Necessity, a battle that ended in his defeat. Humiliating as it was, Washington didn't give up. Instead, he learned one of the most important lessons of leadership. Failure is a stepping stone, not the end of the road. In later battles, Washington proved himself to be courageous under fire. During one fierce fight, bullet holes pierced his coat, and 2 horses were shot from under him, yet he survived without injury. Soldiers began to believe he was protected by Providence itself. Chapter 4. The Call to Lead a Revolution. By the 1770s, the relationship between the American colonies and Britain had deteriorated. Heavy taxes, lack of representation, and British military presence fueled resentment. In 1775, the Second Continental Congress met to discuss a response, and George Washington arrived in his military uniform. Without campaigning for the role, he was chosen as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. It was the hardest job in the colonies. The army was poorly trained, poorly supplied, and facing the most powerful military in the world. Washington knew the road ahead would be long and brutal. Chapter 5. Valley Forge. The winter of desperation. And perhaps the darkest moment of Washington's military career came in the winter of 1777 to 1778 at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. The army faced freezing temperatures, disease, and starvation. Many soldiers didn't even have shoes. Morale was collapsing. Congress struggled to send enough supplies. Some officers even whispered about replacing Washington. But here's where true leadership shone. Washington didn't hide in comfort. He walked among his soldiers, shared in their suffering, and inspired them with his presence. He brought in Baron von Steuben, a Prussian officer, to train the men into a disciplined fighting force. By spring, the Continental Army had transformed from a ragged group into a real army, ready to take on the British. Chapter 6. Victory. Against all odds, the war dragged on for years, filled with victories and defeats. Washington often faced criticism and political pressure, but he refused to compromise his principles. He understood that leadership meant keeping the long-term goal in sight, even when the short-term was painful. In 1781, with the help of French allies, Washington's forces trapped the British Army at Yorktown. The British surrender marked the end of major fighting in the Revolutionary War. The victory wasn't just military, it was a triumph of endurance, unity, and the belief that freedom was worth every sacrifice. Chapter 7. A reluctant president. When the war ended, Washington shocked the world by resigning his military command and returning home. Many expected him to seize power like other victorious generals in history, but he wanted to be a citizen again. However, America needed him once more. In 1789, George Washington was unanimously elected as the first president of the United States. As president, he faced enormous challenges, uniting the states, building a national economy, and keeping the young nation out of dangerous foreign wars. He set important precedents, such as serving only 2 terms, that shaped the presidency forever. Chapter 8. Lessons from Washington's life. George Washington's story isn't just history, it's a guide for personal success. Here are the lessons his life teaches us. Lead by example. Washington never asked others to do what he wasn't willing to do himself. Stay calm in crisis. Whether at Valley Forge or in political disputes, he kept a steady hand. Value honor over power. His refusal to become a king showed that true greatness comes from service, not control. Endure hardship without complaining. Leadership means walking through the fire without losing your vision. Know when to step away. His decision to retire set a standard for peaceful transfer of power. Chapter 9, the final years after 2 terms. As president, Washington retired to Mount Vernon. He spent his last years managing his estate and supporting causes he believed in. Even in retirement, his influence remained strong. On December 14, 1799, Washington passed away at the age of 67. The nation mourned deeply. Leaders around the world recognized his extraordinary character. Chapter 10. Why his legacy still inspires more than 2 centuries later. George Washington's legacy continues to inspire leaders, entrepreneurs, soldiers, and everyday people. His life proves that leadership isn't about titles, it's about character. It's about the courage to face overwhelming odds and the humility to serve a cause greater than yourself. Washington's relentless spirit reminds us that no matter how difficult the road, perseverance, integrity, and vision can change the course of history. Final words. If Washington could lead a divided, struggling people to freedom against the strongest empire of the time, then each of us can overcome the obstacles in our own lives. His story isn't just the birth of a nation, it's a roadmap for anyone who dares to dream big and stand firm when challenges come.